Pope Benedict arrives in Lebanon. Pope Benedict XV have arrived in Lebanon for the first papal trip to the country in 15 years. During his 3-day visit, he will meet politicians and leaders from Lebanon's 18 religious groups. Christians make up 40% of the country's population. The trip comes as Lebanon, including the Christian community, is deeply divided over the conflict in Syria. On his flight to Lebanon, the Pope told reporters that Syrian arms imports were a grave sin. He also called for an end to the conflict there, saying fundamentalism was always a falsification of religion. A small crowd of dignitaries and cheering supporters with banners greeted Pope Benedict at Rafik Hariri International Airport in Beirut. He was welcomed by Lebanon's President Michael Suleiman with a 21-gun salute and with church bells ringing out around the country. Country of resident correspondents say the Pope is expected to express his concern about the dwindling Christian presence in the Middle East. In Iraq, for example, tens of thousands of Christians have been driven from their homes by sectarian violence. Press reporters in Beirut says the pontiff will find a very different Lebanon to the one his predecessor Pope John Paul II saw in 1997. The assassination of Prime Minister Rafik Hariri in 2005 led to the end of Syria's long occupation of the country, an event which was swiftly followed by 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah, a Shia group, is now the power behind government, but Syria remains the defining issue in Lebanese politics, our reporter says. Political parties are divided into pro- and anti-Syrian camps, and the violence across the border is increasingly pitting Shia and Sunni Muslims against each other in Lebanon. In addition to the conflict in Syria, recent controversy over a film deemed to be offensive to the Prophet Muhammad has raised tensions in the region ahead of the Pope's visit. The film, The Innocence of Muslims, believed to have been made by a Coptic Egyptian Christian in the US, has sparked protests across the Middle East and led to the death of US ambassador to Libya. China ships sail in waters near disputed islands. 6 Chinese surveillance ships briefly entered waters around islands claimed by both Japan and China amid bitter territorial disputes. China said the ships were carrying out law enforcement to show jurisdiction over the islands called Diao in China and Senkaku in Japan. 3 vessels left after a short time, and the other 3 have now also left, the Japanese Coast Guard said. The move came after Japan sealed a deal to buy 3 of the islands. Japan controls the uninhabited but resource-rich East China Sea islands, which are also claimed by Taiwan. 3 were in the hands of private Japanese owner, but the Japanese government bought them earlier this week. No force, the Japanese Coast Guard said. The first 2 Chinese boats entered Japan's territorial waters at 6:18 local time, 21:18 GMT Thursday, followed by another fleet of 4 other ships just after 7. India court asked government to explain allocations. India's Supreme Court has asked the government to explain allegations of corruption in the allocation of coal fields to private companies. The authorities were given 8 weeks to explain if guidelines were followed while allotting the natural resource. Last month, state auditors said India lost $33 billion allotting coal fields at below market rates. The controversy has sparked a political row with the opposition demanding that the allocation should be cancelled. Although the report by the government auditors does not mention Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, leaders of the main opposition, Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, say they must step down as they also had direct responsibility for the coal ministry when the most of the coal fields were granted to companies between 2006-2009. Mr. Singh denies any wrongdoing and has refused to quit. What are the guidelines for allotting coal fields and whether any guidelines were flouted during the allocation process? Justice R.M. Lotha and Anil Dave asked on Friday. Is it coincidence that the relatives of politicians are benefited? They asked. Solicitor General Rohinton Nariman, who represented the government in court, said the parliamentary committee was studying the coalfields allocation and that a court hearing would become a parallel investigation. But the judges said the government owed an explanation on the distribution of state property. On Thursday, the coal ministry scrapped the allotment of 4 coal blocks, saying that they had not been developed on schedule. Earlier this month, the Central Bureau of Investigation (CBI) carried out raids across 10 cities, searching the premises of 5 companies which allegedly misrepresented facts prior to being allocated the coal fields. We'll move on to the business world. Global stock market rise on US Fed stimulus plan. European share markets have jumped after the US Federal Reserve moved to kickstart recovery by pumping more money into the economy. It followed the Fed's decision on Thursday to inject $40 billion a month into the US economy. UK, German and French stocks rose 2% in afternoon trading after the rises in Asia. But fears over the global economy persisted as the International Monetary Fund and European Central Bank denied they were in bailout talks with Spain. Eurogroup finance ministers are meeting in Nicosia in Cyprus for talks on measures to end the current Eurozone debt crisis. On Friday, Jean-Claude Juncker, head of the Eurogroup, announced that the new Eurozone Rescue Fund would be up and running by end of October. Welcome to the world of science. Genes for face shape identified. Understanding the genes that determine the human facial shape could one day provide valuable information about a person's appearance using just their DNA. The discovery of 5 genes involved in the facial form could have applications in forensics, say the authors of a study. Virtually nothing was known about the genes responsible for facial shape in humans. The study of almost 10,000 individuals is published in PLOS Genetics. Lead author Manfred Keizer from the Erasmus University of Medical Center in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, said, "These are exciting first results that mark the beginning of the genetic understanding of human facial morphology. Perhaps sometime it will be possible to draw the phantom portrait of a person solely from his or her DNA left behind, which provides interesting applications such as in forensics." And in sports, Ricky Hatton comeback. Hitman returns in November. Former world champion Ricky Hatton says he will box again more than 3 years since his last bout. "It's more than a comeback," said the Manchester-based boxer, 33. "I am fighting to redeem myself." Hatton retired last year with a record of 45 wins and 2 defeats. But the Briton, who held the WBA and IBF light welterweight and WBA welterweight titles, had been decided to return, with a fight scheduled for 24 November against an unnamed opponent. "I want British boxing to be proud of me again," added Hatton, whose fight will take place at the Manchester Arena. "The only way to convince everyone I am back is by flattening someone on 24th November. Now, before we close today's bulletin of news analysis, let's have a recap of the main points. Katie and William angered by grotesque invasion of privacy. US missions praised for protests over anti-Islam film. South Africa vows clampdown on mining unrest. Pope Benedict arrives in Lebanon. China ships sail in waters near disputed islands. India coal, court asks government to explain allocations. And there we end today's bulletin of news analysis. Be with us in the coming weeks too. Thank you.